Hey guys, what's going on? Mike and Ez back with another theory video today.
Dangerous.
Dangerous, very dangerous. We posted one, was it last week, 2 weeks ago?
A couple weeks.
And it was basically sort of like who left Rey on Jakku. This today, our theme is who is Rey's mother?
We think that's the theme.
We think
it could go anywhere.
This could go any direction, but we're going to start with some things that we think are important, things that we know for sure or slash 90% of. The first thing we want to start with is sort of like a timeline, okay? And we have to help us. I've read and been referencing Bloodlines, which is a great book. If you haven't read it, it's awesome.
And mind
well
you,
done.
this isn't really having to do with Rey's mother at all.
No, this is just to sort of set up what we think.
Yeah.
It's sort of like it just helps us sort of talk through Rey's theory.
Clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait. No. Here, in all seriousness, we've got. We think though that at some point we've got Bloodlines is 6 years prior to The Force Awakens. All right.
Yep.
Ben Solo maybe early 20s at that point, 22, what have you. There is this communication piece we talked about between what's revealed in Bloodlines that Leia's father is Darth Vader, and then she pens a letter to Ben Solo and lets him know. So I'm not really sure we're not really sure when Ben Solo fell to the dark side or was seduced by Snoke. But anyways, the raid, where Kylo raids the temple, we believe that happened without Luke Skywalker being there, right?
It seems that way. If Luke's as powerful as you and I suspect,
right,
he would have wrecked everyone unless he had a soft spot for his nephew.
Yeah, but I just don't think. I think you show up with your couple of your bad boys, like this little tiny gang, and you've got one really force sensitive guy with one lightsaber and a school full of people. So I still find it kind of hard to believe that he faced. How many Jedi were at Luke's academy? Were they all young Jedi? Those are a lot of questions for us because Kylo kind of destroys this new generation of Jedi in this order.
Is that dream sequence the actual vision of what happened? Or did all those people die? Did Kylo kill all those people? Did Luke kill all those people? And maybe he let the rest of them go.
Yeah. So we're kind of going. Yeah, that was. But it's there. That was no. It's sort of like we're going back and forth about whether the vision was Kylo and the Knights of Ren in the future or was it in the past. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that today. So Kylo's there, raids the temple. We don't think Luke was there, and here's sort of why. When we see in Rey's vision, the dream vision, Luke reaching out and touching R2 in his hand. We see the rain, the transition. There's some fire. It looks like he's screaming no, and R2's with him.
He is,
and he travels with R2, and so we think that R2 would have been with him in the traveling process. Plus, we just don't think they would have attacked when Luke was there. I think they were waiting. Like Luke was still. I think Luke was actually
an opportune moment.
Yeah, they were looking for that moment to strike, and I think Luke was out, maybe even searching for the first Jedi temple, and so Anyways, so that's sort of our timeline there. We think Kylo raided. Luke shows up with R2, sees it, is upset, and then what does he do from there? Starts to, maybe he already had scouted out and knew where Ahch-To was, and he goes to Ahch-To and leaves R2 to go back to Princess Leia, his sister, lots of different things, right?
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think that we kind of missed that with R2 being there, showing that, I don't know. We don't see R2 much, but they make a purpose of showing him in that dream sequence. And R2 usually, I can't imagine R2 was sitting there fighting the Knights of Ren or something with Luke. It seems kind of weird. So it seems like they just got out of an X-Wing or something. Yeah. And they're on this kind of destroyed order.
Right. Yeah, so that, so they're Luke showing up afterwards, and then a couple nuggets for you, things that if you leave us some comments, let us know what you think. But we do believe that, I believe, anyways, that the plans that were found on Jakku and Lor San Tekka finds them. I think they were found in the Millennium Falcon.
It's possible.
I think that's where he goes and he finds them. So, however that works. So from there, anyways, Luke goes on to Ahch-To and R2 goes back to Leia. But this whole time, Rey has been on Jakku.
Yes.
And one thing that we want to debunk, I guess, right now is that there's no way that Kylo Ren or Ben Solo dropped off Rey on Jakku.
99.9%
sure that's not possible. So if you've watched this far, and you're listening and you thought that, if you disagree, let us know. Because
Let us know.
And here's our rationale behind it. Because at the point in Bloodline, 6 years prior to The Force Awakens, Ben Solo, again, we think in The Force Awakens he's like what, late 20s?
Yeah, late 20s.
Maybe even
mid to late 20s.
Yeah. So you take 6 years away from that, he's early 20s now, what have you. And Rey was born 11 years after the Battle of Endor, 15 years after the Battle of Yavin, but I start with the Battle of Endor because it's easier. Episode 6, a jumping point. And we kind of did the math we went backwards and we went forwards with Rey. And if we keep going back, it looks like Ben Solo would have been around 15. And Rey, when we see her in the vision being dropped off, she looks like what, 6 years old?
6 years old.
And so if you count back from The Force Awakens and Bloodlines, and you sort of go back and sort of see where was Rey in relationship to Kylo's age, she just doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like he's old enough to have dropped her off.
And like, I mean, I don't know. You take that into the dream sequence, like him actually doing all of these things. If he were getting rid of her, would he really have gotten rid of her however so many years in advance before he's like, I'm going to take down this Jedi Order? It doesn't seem. It seems like it probably was a more like a quicker process than several years are going to pass by, and I have this master plan where I'm hiding this individual who I want to train later. I don't like that.
A 15-year-old's not doing that. I mean, because at the point in Bloodline, 6 years prior to The Force Awakens, Leia and Han still think that things are honky-dory okay with Ben and Luke.
Yep.
And that Luke is training him. So they don't know that he's turned. Has he turned at that point, or is it the information that his mother has been hiding the fact that Darth Vader is her father, that sort of sends him into the dark side? Because in The Force Awakens, we just got done watching it, Han Solo and Leia are talking about how they sensed, what does he say? Han says that that there was a lot of Vader in him.
Yeah, he says there's too much Vader in him, blah, blah, blah. And she says,
that's why I wanted to send him to Luke.
Train with Luke.
So they sensed that darkness in him before he ever even went to, so she said, Snoke seduced him. So he could have been struggling with it for a while and then finds out, well, my grandpa is Darth Vader, and then it kind of helps him fall or lean towards the dark side. But anyway, so just to debunk that, we don't think that Kylo Ren was old enough, or the time doesn't work out for him to be the one who, either saved her in the dream sequence. Maybe if that's the future, if that dream sequence is the future and Kylo is stabbing.
I'm still not certain that's the past.
Yeah, I'm not either. So, but I don't think though that he dropped her off on Jakku. There we go. All right, someone else dropped her off there.
It's math, kids. I mean, it's
math.
There's
go back
chicken scratch here.
It makes sense. But you can also go back and look at our other theory video where we talk about how we thought it was Han Solo and possibly some other people. But now let's get to who is Rey's mother.
Wow. Man, I even had a sweet nugget about the dream sequence.
What do you got?
Well, it was just a quick. And maybe we'll touch on this some other time, with it not necessarily being the past, in which we always, for some reason, we think this is all just the past, which some of it is. She's seeing herself as a young child. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you see Luke in his hand, it's still got that robotic hand.
Yeah.
And so if he's, creating this Jedi Order, presumably he can maintain the human-looking hand that he had
in Episode 6.
In 6.
Yeah.
I mean, he wore a glove over it, but we saw that it was kind of a human-looking hand.
Right.
So either he let that deteriorate or change that to where it was all mechanical for a reason, to be reminded that this is what you can become if you're not careful, or that's a vision of the future. And because we see he has the mechanical hand on Ahch-To,
right?
He's wearing that same white shirt underneath. He seems like he never changes. But yeah, I don't. It could be the future. That's all I want.
It could be. So it's about that maintenance of the hand. Is it something that like you said, is it a reminder? Has it been just deteriorating because it's been 30 years and he hasn't done a lot of upkeep on it? So could be.
Yeah.
Now's where we get to the crazy part, though.
Oh man,
who is Rey's mother? And we've got a couple options down here.
Worried about this.
Things to So the first one, we're going to save the most ridiculous one for last. So stay tuned here. The first one's kind of ridiculous. Sabine. Sabine
It's just a lot to explain.
Ren. Which so there's everyone's going with this. You know, is it Rey Skywalker or is it Rey Kenobi? First of all, we don't think her name is Rey. She found that helmet on Jakku, but whatever her name may be, is she a Kenobi? Is she a Skywalker?
Mm-hmm.
And the line of thought here with Sabine is that, when did she run into Luke Skywalker though? You know what I mean? And then
there's so much to tell
because they're kind of saying that like Sabine, like possibly that Obi-Wan got with Satine had Sabine, and then
the Mandalorian aspect connects it, but I don't know. Yeah. That's so much. I feel like if there's gonna be a mother even discussed in the later trilogy, that it's gonna be more related to the movies themselves. I just feel like they're not gonna tie in a ton of Rebel
stuff. Yeah, I'm with that. Right? I don't think they're gonna tie it in. I don't think it's your people who are watching the motion pictures are not watching.
Not necessarily.
I mean, there's a lot of us that are watching Rebels and reading all the books and things like that. But like, you're trying to reach a broader, bigger audience and help them understand what could have happened. Yeah. They're not going to tie in something like Sabine. It's cool, and it allows for this little possible connection between Darth Vader being her grandfather and Obi-Wan Kenobi being the grandfather, which would be kind of cool. But I don't think that's the case. So that's one option.
Gosh, that would be crazy.
That'd be crazy. It'd be cool. I mean, it's more likely. People are saying it's more likely that Sabine is going to hook up with Ezra. Ezra has sort of this.
Cannot wait to figure out his future.
And then the Knights of Ren and Sabine Wren. It's a whole another video worthy of discussion. Yep. Next, if you look back at Legends, and I used to read a lot of the old books that used to be somewhat canon, what have you. There are now the Legends. Mara Jade was the Emperor's Hand. She was someone who worked with I'm not sure if she was a part of the Dark Side Elites. I don't think she was, but she worked for Emperor Palpatine, and Luke ends up sort of turning her, to the light, and that ends up marrying her. They actually have a son named Ben Skywalker. So instead of it being Ben Solo, it was actually Ben Skywalker, and then Han and Leia had twins, in the old Legends stuff. So could they still be going with that? And is it that Mara Jade was someone that we just haven't met yet, and maybe she was living with Rey on Jakku? Here's something that we were going to talk a little bit about, is that maybe Rey sees that someone is leaving her, and if Luke's still out doing his thing, maybe he was either one living a double life, which maybe not. Mike doesn't really like that.
It's cool.
It's cool, but probably not. But then maybe her mother was there with her. Maybe Mara Jade was there, and she senses that the temple is under attack, and then so she, leaves, or for some reason she needs to leave. But
she's concerned maybe that Luke's in harm's way, but doesn't.
And that still doesn't match up with our timeline, which we just described earlier.
Maybe Luke sent them both away.
Yeah, maybe he
sent away, and she says, "I gotta go."
Yeah.
Something's happening.
Maybe. That actually leads us right into Mike's theory. And I'll let Mike talk about this one. Yeah, well, Mike, what have you been...
Well, let me go back just before I get into the crazy that's been discussed in the past. But I'm not cashing it out just yet.
Okay.
So we're talking about... Oh, goodness. What were we just talking about? Remind me of... I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, you mean how... Like, we're talking about how, I was saying that Mara Jade and, how the mother could be leaving... Jakku.
Yeah. I was going to bring in the novelization. We had a comment in our last video that they're saying clearly this is some female that is that calls her sweetheart, is saying, "Sweetheart, I'll return." I gotta call sexist on that.
Yeah,
that is a sexist comment. If I had a daughter and I was leaving her, I would. Or even a son, I'd call him sweetheart.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just not. I mean, you have husbands calling their wives sweethearts. I don't think it's necessarily a woman. I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do I think it's kind of more likely now? Yes.
Okay.
If you kind of take our old theory of Han dropping her off and chuck it right out the window, then maybe I kind of like the idea of like Luke sending them both away. For a long time, and they're on Jakku, and she's like, "I gotta go. Something's going on. I gotta find your father, and it's not safe for you. So I'll return."
Right,
and that's what it says in the novelization. I will return.
I will return.
So I think that's cool. It definitely has to be someone that loved her, a family member. I would assume. I don't think if that's the case, if the novelization and the movie kind of go hand in hand, and the novelization's filling in for the movie,
Right.
Then I don't think it was necessarily. It could have been Han.
Yeah.
It could have been.
It could have been.
But it seems more so like it was an immediate parent or something of that nature.
Yeah. And we're talking about in the dream sequence when people have really broken down the different things that were said there, and you can hear somebody say, "Call her sweetheart," and then I will return.
Exactly. So I like that. I like the novelization's kind of breakdown of that.
Yeah.
And I think it ties in nicely with it, and hopefully tells us a little more, and just kind of feeds the theories. But what you were getting to?
What I was getting to
is just the real winner.
Yeah, the real winner here.
This is something that...
This is who Rey's mother actually is.
Rey's mother is actually this individual. This is something that people talked about for a couple months right after Episode 7 came out. I think there was a lot of hype about the one and only Captain Phasma. There was a lot of press about her. J.J. Abrams was saying that, she's his favorite character. They're making cardboard cutouts of her. Mm-hmm. And then people went and watched the movie, and there's hardly any Captain Phasma.
Yeah.
So people immediately started speculating that, hey, maybe that's her mom, kind of making a Mara Jade connection. But then people so easily casted that idea out.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of thinking about this the other day, and then kind of reading some fan theories, and I stumble across this. I'm like, why is it so crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, Ez will trample on this all day, but it kind of makes sense. If that's, let's put the novelization and that idea together. Maybe she's leaving Rey there, and she ends up even joining the First Order to protect her child. Because how else... How could you better protect your child than actually join the ranks and ensure that they never find her there?
Yeah, if Luke shared some information with her, like, this is what could happen to our daughter, here's why you need to stay, and then she thinks, I'm going to one-up Luke, I know what else we need to do.
Exactly. And I mean, Luke could have even... I mean, she's a part of Kylo's kind of search. The little bit of history you can get on Captain Phasma, which is another reason why I think she could potentially, I'm not saying certainly, could potentially be more important than everyone believes, because there's not hardly any history on her.
Yeah.
They've kind of left a lot of that out. There's only a few characters in these movies that we see that have such little history.
Yeah.
Just whether it's in the books or just some backstory on Wikipedia or whatever you want to put it, but it kind of makes sense for me. But, I mean, so she theoretically could have joined the ranks to protect her child, maybe even betrayed Luke in that sense and joined, and maybe he's mad about that. I don't know. It's a crazy theory.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why people, they look a lot at the actress, and they say, they say they look at, like, well, look at how old she is, look at how tall she is. Look at her accent. That matches.
It does match.
That matches.
People put so much
on the app.
People single-handedly think that Obi-Wan is Rey's grandfather because of an accent.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other reasons other than him speaking in the dream sequence, I don't know where they're really making the connection other than the accent and the dream sequence.
Yep. I know. That's really it. But so
I don't know.
So you could make the connection, that Phasma with her accent and things, joins their ranks to kind of...
And not to mention when they're on Starkiller Base, someone discussed this. She's for how fierce of an individual she supposedly is, with a little bit of backstory we have, she kind of lets Han and Finn bring down those shields pretty easily.
Yeah.
I mean, if this were the case, and Han actually knew who Rey was, and he would theoretically know who Phasma the individual was, but I mean, she's got that mask on, her voice is kind of distorted.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grasping at straws.
I know
here,
you are. It's fine.
But I mean, she would have no idea who she was.
Oh yeah, no, and it's still. And the other thing too is she goes down a garbage chute, which Han and Leia and Luke and Chewie all survive. So she's
gonna survive.
I totally think she's still alive, and she's gonna play a role in something.
They've said that she's going to have a bigger role in Episode 8.
And it's kind of cool. Who's left in a mask to reveal for the big reveal later?
Wow, that would be so sick.
Right, because we have Darth Vader with his mask on, and he's revealed to be this. It was taken off in the last episode, sort of thing, and we get that whole sort of No one would have thought in Episode 4 that Darth Vader was Luke's father. No, not at all. We didn't know much about Darth Vader's backstory, so I totally get why people are on the Phasma bandwagon. Totally. And Kylo Ren's already taken his mask off. We've seen who he is. We know who he is. So I'm with you. But it's cool to mention because we don't have a lot to go off of for who Rey's mother is.
And there has to be a mother. There could very easily not be a father. We know that can be the case. It was the same case with Anakin Skywalker.
Right.
There has to be a mother to bear the child.
Yep.
So she might just be insignificant, but she could be.
Right. She could be Phasma. The last one we're going to point out, and I'm pointing this out just to take us to, so we want to cover everything.
Yep.
It could also have been Princess Leia. And it could have been. There's not a lot of people like to talk about, Han and Leia having.
But what about the accents?
I know the accents. Good Lord. I know. So, but there's that aspect. It could end up that Ben and Rey are brother and sister, and they have to sort of. If you look back at the legends and you look at when Han and Leia had kids before, they had twins, and they had a younger son named Anakin Solo. But they had two twins, and one of them, the male, the son turns to the dark side.
Yeah.
And the sister has to fight him later on.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And actually, the son ended up killing Mara Jade, and it was a whole thing. So it was just it could still be Han and Leia, or Leia could be her mother as well. The movie doesn't support that very much because there's not a lot of, you don't see any recognition or chemistry or what have you. And there's all these things people were talking about, like, did Luke wipe some people's minds and memories to sort of like...
He would have had to have wiped everyone's mind.
Yeah, because, I mean, Luke having a child is pretty significant. You would think he's well known in the galaxy. So is Princess Leia.
Yeah.
How would people forget these things?
I would presume
That's why we're so
Chewie
stumped.
would be included.
Yeah.
Han, Leia, Rey. There's just a lot of minds being wiped.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they're sticking to a lot of the same storyline as the old ones, but I think it can just be as simple as the Solos had one child, and the Skywalkers or no one else had a child. Yeah.
Oh. So let's do this. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Please. Let us know if you think we're wrong, way off the target. We've narrowed it down to at least possibly 4 people, and then it just could be somebody new that we have no idea. So let us know what you think. Please like, please subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Thanks.
Recording.
I honestly think my Mac is dead.
I think it is too.
Like, I don't really know what happened to it.
It's that tornado.
What? Tornado.
It's a tornado.
Oh, bro, trust me. I heard myself speaking on there, and it was
just making
insane.
sure it was dead on the head.
Dead on the head. All right, man. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Glasses glare. Was it bad?
I couldn't tell. You're going with it.
Going with it.